today is Sharon Parker. She was born in Calvert County, Maryland. She was a mother, grandmother, and wears many hats, serving as the president of Remembering Our Ancestors Synergistic Association, ROASA. She was appointed commissioner by the governor of Maryland to the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. And she was a former president of the Robert C. Weaver Blacks and Governance chapter. She's also the former president of the Maryland Association of American Mothers. Sharon is a longtime federal government employee. She worked for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, for 35 years. It's huge. Sharon is the author of the book, quote, True Synergy Works, Leading the Way, 7 Defining Principles in Knowing Self to Birth Greatness. She uses all of her leadership tools, skills, and technical background to help the next generation to connect with today's professionals while learning about trailblazers of the past. So thanks for coming.
Is the food good?
Yes.
Okay, I want some because I haven't eaten yet. So let me ask you all, how many of you all remember the year 1963? Do you remember what you were doing in 1963? What were you doing? Share something for me, guys.
Graduated from high school.
Which high school?
Community High School in Carroll City, Iowa.
Awesome. Who else? What were you doing in 1963?
Got married in 1963.
Oh. Who else want to share? Yes.
Suffered through the assassination of Kennedy.
Oh, that's right. Yes, sir.
I was at the University of Texas, and I was going to go to the luncheon where President Kennedy was going to make a presentation.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So sorry if you wasn't able to go. Anyone else want to share? Yes.
Yeah, I was observing racism in the Deep South.
Interesting.
Bathrooms and water fountains at the fire department, asking my mom, what the hell?
Wow. Okay, one more. Anyone? Why do you think I asked you that question?
It's a pivotal year.
Very pivotal. I got a few things on the table. One is a little flashlight. If you can follow where I'm going to be going in this presentation, and if you think of what I'm going to ask you, and you know the answer when I ask you, I want you to raise that flashlight, and I want that to come on. So, what else happened in 1963 that brought everyone together? African Americans, Caucasians, Asians, young, old. What happened in 1963? Yes, sir.
March on Washington.
I love it. Congratulations. Absolutely. So, there was a lot of issues going on like that. Yes, there was a lot of issues going on in 1963. Did you see any similarities today? Raise your hand if you do. We got more work to do, right? Well, imagine being born in 1963. Imagine being 5 years old, born the month of May, 5 o'clock in the morning, have no sense of anything because guess what? You're an infant. You were just born. 5 years later, what happened? Raise your hand.
Not again. So
I want to get it.
Yeah.
Get it moved.
Some of it old.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King and Kennedy was assassinated. How old do you think I was? I love y'all. Y'all got it. Okay. So remember, this presentation is going to be about the power of 5. The power of 5 to me represents power and grace from God. Whatever He's destined for you to do, you figure it out and you make it happen. Can you all relate to the slide? If, for those who, I know it's kind of bluish, but can you relate to some of the movements in the slide? Can you see it? And this is the reason why I wanted to find out what you were doing in those times, because there was a lot of moving parts going on during the Civil Rights era. Do you remember what year the Civil Rights Act was in place? Where is that little? Give me one of those. Thank you, absolutely. Do you remember when the Fair Housing Act was implemented?
65. No, sir.
68.
How old was I?
5.
That power of 5. Keep that in your mind. Keep that in your consciousness. Going to the next one, please. Same kind of things. Justice, a lot of issues going on. And I'm only 5 years old. Keep on going. And this is going to be pretty fast. What do you think the significance of this year is? Who's 55? Are you 55? Power of 5. Let's clap for her. Power of 5. Awesome. This year is the 55th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. It's also the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington this year. Increments of 5, right? Keep that in mind as we go forward. Okay. I, as you can see, am an author. I call myself a civil rights baby. Why? Because I was born in that year, 1963. Had no clue what was going on, but I could feel the energy when I was 5 years old that the community was unrest, right? So at 5 years old, I'm standing on the church ground in my hometown of Calvert County, Maryland, the Carol Western Church, and I'm not sure if you all heard about it, but I'm standing on the church ground and I ask God a question. God, why is it that people of color are not liked by others? Why? I'm 5 years old. Why is it that people of color, African American in particular, because I'm African American, not liked by others? So I'm a 5-year-old waiting for an answer. I'm like, answer me. Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. I want an answer. Didn't get one. So I thought. So 40 years later, I was destined to learn about my history, my family's history, and I'll tell you the story behind it in a little bit. But I was also inspired to get a federal government job. Did I know that I was going to be working at the Department of Housing and Urban Development 36 years ago? I did not. Did I know that I would be starting an organization that would inspire the next generation to follow in positive people's footsteps? No, I did not. But what I did do is listen to something that I call auspicious occurrences. It's all throughout my book. It's when something happens to you that you don't understand, you don't expect it to happen, but you're given a piece of paper and you act on it. You do something with it. You're given an opportunity to connect with someone and you do it. This book, and this is some of my credentials, guys, I'm a mom first, I'm a grandmom second, and these names mean nothing to me. The titles, it's just me serving the community. So I thank God for allowing me to find my leadership voice as a civil rights baby, born in the due south of Calvert County, Maryland, to be able to share my skill sets. And for those who have not read my book or who will read my book, you'll find out that I love project management. Project management allows me to speak, organize, bring people together, and I use all those skills in all of these categories. And you're going to get the answer to that question I asked God, so it's coming. So 36 years in the federal government, as mentioned, that's all, you can stay right there. I can speak to it. Former commissioner for the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, former president for the Maryland Association of American Mothers, Inc. Please look it up. It's a national organization, American Mothers, Inc. Been with them for, guess how many years? 5 times 2. 10 years. 10 years. This year, I became the area coordinator for Region 5. And I can't make this up, guys. I'm telling you, I cannot make it up. Okay, go online. You'll see me on the website at www.americanmothers.org. What do American mothers do? They recognize mom all over the country for serving their communities, giving back to their families, and just working on so many different projects. And I'll share that. Some of that is in my book as well. So this quilt, as a commissioner, was put together in 2014. I was on the commission and I was tasked to work on this project. Again, I used my project management skills to help get my mom, my dad, my grandma, my great grandma's house on this quilt. Yes, I am a descendant of a family who got their 40 acres in a year. They got the 40 acres in a year and they kept it. So in Calvert County, where it used to be 60% African Americans, now it's only down to 12% of African Americans. But Parkers in Calvert County were able to do something. Have y'all ever heard of aired property? Where you can't sell the property, you got to keep it in the family. That's what my great grandparents did to make sure that their descendants would have access to somewhere to live when they finish having fun in life, going off to Washington, D.C., New York, wherever, and then coming back home, they would have a home. So, as I was mentioning, former commissioner, Blacks in Government, Robert C. Weaver chapter, and these credentials, believe me, and I'm very humble when I say this. I can stand up here and speak to you now because I built up my confidence. I had to do some training, I had to do some skill sets, but so many young people can't. And I will share with you, it took a lot of time for me to do this. I believe truly, if I did not take project management training, I would not be able to stand in front of you today. Why? Because I'm one of those civil rights babies who had, a confidence issue. I didn't know how America would receive me. I didn't know how to show that I had skills and gifts and talents. But my mom believed in me. She said, Sharon, you can do this. You have a brain. Get your education. Focus on what you have to focus on and just better society. You can do this. Because she believed in me, I started believing in me. But I made plenty of mistakes along the way. But she did believe in me, and she's no longer here. She passed in 2010, and I was destined to tell her family's legacy. So I did everything in my power to tell her story, and that is the reason why I wrote my book. But wow, that's not the only reason. There's so much going on. My father, my grandmother, grandfather, I did not know them on either side. Both of them on both sides, my grandfather, grandmother, and my father and mom's side passed away before I was born. So by 1963, neither one of them was there. So I was only raised by my mom because my father, he wasn't there, but that is my brother Ben. I put something on the table for you all to look at your leisure while you're eating. Getting back to the power of fives, the power of sharing your story. My brother met with me yesterday and he said, Sharon, whatever you do, you have to share this with the club because this year is a very significant year. What you see on the table is the last graduating class of an African-American segregated school that graduated back in 1966. I was only 2 years old. And my brother, his wife, his wife's cousins are all in there. And this year we have the first African-American superintendent at Calvert High. So here's the house, the 40 acres in a million. Do you think it's still there?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you do. Raise your hand if you don't. Come on, don't be scared. Raise your hand if you don't. You're absolutely right. It's not there. It was the first house to have electricity on it that lit up Adelina Road. It was my great-great-grandparents were like engineers before I even knew about engineering because they had something called combine lights that they put in the ground to light the house. Unfortunately, a family member wanted the land and they decided to put a trailer there and they knocked down the house. It was a little small fire there that happened in the kitchen, which I was, I believe, 3 years old, maybe 4 when it happened. And this lady you see at the bottom, her name is Valerie Hampton. She rescued me from the fire. So I'm here because of my guardian angel, Miss Valerie Hampton. But that house is not there, but guess what? The land is. So we have an opportunity not only to build on the home. Some family members have already built on the homes. We went from 4 acres to 25. Don't ask me how that happened, but it did. And so now, keep in mind, I mentioned aired property. Aired property is where everyone has to agree upon you getting a certain portion of the land before you can build on it. My mom, who was the youngest of them all, my grandmom, who was the oldest of them all, did not get her interest until I found my project management voice. Unfortunately, you all know how things are when it comes to property, land, and money. Family, they want more than what they deserve, and they may sue you. Well, they sued my mom and my aunt over and over again until unfortunately they passed away, and they were not able to get their portion out of the 25 acres. But when my mom passed away, I became the trust representative for my mom's property. I also became the family historian, and guess what? We have our property. I'm not going to go too much into this other than, I asked God that question. I shared that at the top of the program. I shared with you that, and knowing your ancestry is really, really key. You got to know where you come from. And here's the auspicious occurrences. I mentioned 5 several times, right? And I can't make that up. I can't, say, God, this is what's going to happen to me in the future. I just have to keep on doing what He's ordering myself to do. So his answer was, Sharon, do your homework. Do your research. Learn about your family's history. Learn about African American history in America. Learn about how we work collectively together to make society a little better for all. So just learn about that. So the answer was, sometimes people treat other people bad because they have a lot within them and they're great in their own right, but they just have to discover their leadership voice. Once they discover their voice, they understand history, they work together collectively, they impact change. And that's what my book is about. It's about a civil rights baby working together to find her voice, working together to share her story, and working together to make sure that the Parkers and Adelina, the next generation coming up behind me, feel confident to go to school, get a job, get a professional career, and lead like most of you all in the room, and well, all of you all, but also get to meet you. If they don't know who you are, how are they going to be able to know your story, right? So a lot of times they say that people of the past, like Martin Luther King, they talk about Rosa Parks, they talk about Harriet Tubman, they talk about Marcus Garvey, they talk about so many other people. But what about you all? What about those in the room today that has a story that needs to be shared? How many of you are authors in the room? I know each one of you in the room has a story, and you're not. Okay, I'm going to ask again. How many of you all are authors? Raise your hand. Be proud. Put your hand up. 1, 2. Why your hand is? I heard you had 5 books. Did I hear 5 books earlier?
Yeah.
Pop, 7 now. Okay, that's major. Each one of you all have a story, and each one of you. Guys, I wrote my book 6 years ago in 2017, and guess what was going on then? I hosted annual conferences. I brought young people together. I worked with the Francis L. Cardoza Educational Campus. I'm sure y'all heard about that in Northwest. Have you heard about the National Congress of Black Women in Southwest? Okay, have you heard about the Department of Employment Services that does the Marionberry Summer Youth Program every year? Have you heard about that? Well, those are the programs that I made it a point to be a part of so that I can educate the next generation on doing exactly what I'm doing and doing exactly what I would love for that you all to do, which is working with professionals, having the youth follow in your footsteps so they can be confident. The Power 5, the similarities between 1963 and this year. I remember the March on Washington, we did that. Our auspicious occurrences, this being my 60th birthday during the 60th year. So we shared that. And then, what's next? What's on my agenda next to help the community, to help the youth in particular? This is a historical piece. I found out that my great-great-grandfather, Benjamin Parker, was one of the individuals who went to the Freedom Bank to open up an account right after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1864. He was one of the first to sign up in the bank. So that's part of my family's legacy as well. And I love sharing that. This moment right here. Wow. So I want to thank our president, Lisa, for hearing the call. She did not know me from Adam. I reached out to a connection of hers and said, could you have someone come to my 10th annual, what year, guys?
73.
10th annual this year. 10th annual Leading Within Conference in September of this year. And I said, could you please share your story? She didn't say no. She said, I would love to share my story. I want to thank you for doing that. I did not know you, and you answered the call for the next generation. The ROSA organization is remembering our ancestors' Synergistic Association. Our youth program is called the ROSA's Youth Empowerment Series. Because of you and everything, we were able to fill that room at the 10th annual. But also, I mentioned back in 2017, I wrote my book. Have you ever heard of Dr. Barbara Reynolds? Look her up. She wrote the book on Coretta Scott King. What year do you think that was? 2017, the same year I wrote my book. Did we plan that? No. The lady standing beside her is Dr. Stephanie Myers. Have you ever heard of Dr. Stephanie? She wrote the book called The Incredible Queen. And they say that there was an African American or a woman of color queen in England. But how many decades ago? Can't even think about it. But she wrote a book about it, and she was also the keynote speaker at my event. What year do you think she wrote her book? 2017, exactly. And it's on the screen, right? 2017. And why am I sharing that? Well, in 2017 was the 5th annual conference that I held called the Leading Within Through Public Management Conference. Again, that's the same year I wrote my book, and that's part of the Power Five. When they came to my conference this year and we shared for the first time, we could not believe we all wrote our book at the same year. So this book on Coretta Scott King, Dr. Reynolds could not find her copy. I said, well, you're lucky because I brought my copy that she autographed, and she took it. So that is my personal copy of the book that she's holding. So I just feel good that I was able to bring these legends together. And that's what ROSA is all about. We're about, adding value in the community, understanding and connecting with you, but most importantly, having you share your story. I can share my story on the different platforms, but being here this year, the 60th anniversary, to me is priceless. So thank you again. And that's again that's the inside of the book where she signed it, and you see it. It was signed on 3/31/2017. So it's really good to show you that. And that's Bernice King, Dr. Martin Luther King's daughter. All right, so this is going to be, y'all ready to have some fun? All right, so I took this presentation to another level. I said, Sharon, do a little research. Find out how many people were born in 1963. Do you all know these individuals? And the names are up there, but do you know them? Have you followed them? Do you know anything about their story? Raise your hand. Or raise your light. You know at least 5 of them? Name a few.
Michael Jordan.
Okay. Charles Barkley, okay. Johnny Depp, exactly. Brad Pitt. We love Brad Pitt. Hey, you can't say that. All of them were born in 1963. Of course, throughout the year, not in May like I was, but each one of them were born in 1963. when I put this presentation together and I started thinking about the mindset of what these young, people had to go through to overcome challenges to be able to lead in the capacity that they need, it just, made me feel so good to say, even though I was a young, little country girl growing up in the South, mom didn't drive, I had to figure out how to become a federal employee. I was able to not be on their level, but still be able to find my voice, overcome challenges, and guys, that's what we have to convince our next generation coming up behind us. We have to convince them to find their voice, to be able to know that there's an opportunity out there for them. I did not just get positioned in the job because I got a degree. I got positioned in the job because my sister said, Sharon, HUD is hiring in an internship. Join, come to HUD and be a federal employee. And I came as an intern and I stayed for 36 and counting, because I'm still there, years. Someone said, when I walked in, oh, you're not a grandmother. Yes, I am. I'm a grandmother of 4 boys and 4 girls. I have 4 daughters. So the 444 is just, a number that I live by, even though my power number is power 5. I do everything for my family, for my children, for my grandchildren. My mom had 12 children. I'm the 3rd from the youngest. They can't believe that the 3rd from the youngest is leading our family with history, legacy, and also trying to add value in the community. But my why is my family, and that's an actual picture of them. I love cartoon type of pictures, so I just wanted to show you them in person. They all special, and they're breaking me 24/7. This is just a picture just to show you guys, this is what it should be about. When we step out in society, we should be out there with our youth, our adults, our elders, and also just, us collectively as professionals and non-professionals and unsung heroes. These are some of the youth programs I talked about, I referenced earlier, the Francis L. Cardoza, the National Congress of Black Women, my RISE program, and also Blacks in Government, the future leaders of American government. Most of our children are not, I'm saying African American children, are not able to get into government like I did when I was younger. They need to have their credit right. They need to make sure that they've got a degree. We need to find opportunities to give them career jobs. So I just want to share that. That's my ROSA logo. That's my RISE logo. The definition of my book, which is true synergy work, leading within. True synergy is finding out what we have in common, right? And then once we find out what we have in common, work together collectively to add value. So that's what the interactions of elements that when combined produce a total effort that is greater than the individual element contributions, and that's just in the website. So just wanted to share the definition of synergy so you can know that. And we're almost at the end. This is the look of my family's property right now. These are some of the things that you may have heard of Seagull Beach. The first African-American grocery store down in Calvert County. This is as far as you can go down in Calvert County before you hit water. This is the land that my parents worked on. This is the store that my cousin owned. He passed away. But this is the house over there, guys, that my grandparents once had. And guys, we are going to build that house again. We're going to build a couple of them too, by the way. But I just wanted to show you that presentation on this image because I'm walking in my ancestors' footsteps. I'm telling their story. I'm being about uplifting my next generation and also just keeping positive energy going out there. These are the words that I love to talk about. Power 5, synergy, auspicious appearance, civil rights baby, leading within, and Sharon Lee. We'll talk about her another time. This one, I would love for you all to take a picture of this. If you have your cell phones in front of you, please pull it out and take a picture. I had mentioned to you that back in, I would say, 1634, this man right here, Matthew DeSore, was one of the first African Americans or Africans who came over here to America as an indentured slave. And he came in Calvert County, got his freedom 4 years later, that's 4 number, right? And It spoke about, in my book, it's also, there's a man named Billy Poe who wrote about it in a book as well. But I shared with you all that when writing this, but it's in my book that British King George II named Prince Frederick after his son Frederick. This is what is believed, and this is a great history that's going to really inspire the community. But we've been here, my ancestors been here since almost the beginning of when America was colonized, and I'm one of those descendants from Prince Frederick, Maryland. This right here is what you see on the table. This is also in my book. It's on page 38. Remember, I wrote this book 6 years ago. I had no idea this year that they would honor those who were the last graduating class in Calvert County in 1966. I know you all heard about the movie called Hidden Figures, right? Well, one of the teachers, Mary Winston, actually taught at Brooks High School. That article that you see, she taught in Calvert County at Brooks High School. So that's a legacy piece for us. Harriet Brown, she was a teacher in Calvert County, and Thurgood Marshall won a lawsuit for her to become, to get equal pay as others, whites in Calvert County. So this is one of those proud moments. But guess what? I didn't grow up knowing, because no one shared that history with me. I didn't know that history until I was in my 40s and 50s. This is what it looks like again. We're at the Harriet Brown Community Center, and again, we're bringing our people to share the story. Of course, Michelle Obama wasn't there. She was at another event, but I just want to throw her in the slide. But I just want you all to know that my family, my story, my family story was all told in this room. And I think this was back in 2017 as well. So it's just showing you a little fact about more cells that's in Calvert County, Holland Point. Someone said they were from Calvert County, so I'm not sure if you've heard of these names, but these are names to actually go and check out the roads there, because you still, even though it's only 12% blacks in Calvert County now, those 12% have been there for centuries, okay, and they're not going anywhere. And I shared the hidden figure, right? Where I look at HUD on 7th Street, about maybe 4 blocks down, they got a Hidden Figures Way, which is by the NASA building, to honor Katherine Johnson, who was also a mathematician, and they talked about her in the Hidden Figures movie as well. So I just wanted to show you a little bit about that. I was at the ceremony, so you know I love my history, so I just wanted to show you that picture and me taking a sign with my book. You have that on the desk. I've showed you already. I just wanted to show you that this is happening in real time. Telling your story can happen in real time. You just have to be disciplined, you have to be creative, and you have to be able to find your voice to connect with people. So I just want to show how I'm using that skill set to really tell a story. Another example of how we give back to the next generation. All right, so that's a lot of information. You can find that on this website, and I'll share that with you all later. But I did write an article up that went in this magazine about how we can work together to make life a little better for others. We talked about the ROASA platform, the 10th annual conference, my Roadmap to Self program. I just want to show you this picture right here, guys. I can talk a lot, but when it comes to a podcast, I had to really challenge myself to reach out to people that I knew were doing wonderful things in the community, but I wasn't sure if they liked history. I wasn't sure if they wanted to give back, but each one of them answered the call. And each one of them shared their story on a podcast show that I launched last year. So I just want to show you that we're all out there telling our story, and you can do the same thing. That's it.
So our club has a tradition where we give all of our speakers, we plant a tree in your honor. And this certificate is for you. And on this here, you'll be able to find the coordinates of your tree being planted. It's a tidal basin, and you'll get this little pen too.